with Midnight Books. Midnight Books, for people who don't know, is a bookstore, community space, and a publishing house in the LA area, dedicated to the proliferation of revolutionary resources, advocating for oppressed people. We do lots of community work, community events, and it's just an overall great community space. And we are here today with Panda Aid, so I can give them an introduction. They had the great honor, Mr. Lee Siu-hin had the great honor of being able to go to Karbala to go and attend the march for Arbaeen, which is, I'll go into that a little bit and give a little introduction on what that is and the significance of it. And they are here to join us today to give their perspective on it, to give their experience, share their experience with people, and hopefully be able to give people sort of knowledge on the significance of this commemoration and the mourning period. And just a little introduction, Panda Aid is a community-based and activist-run international humanitarian aid organization run by Chinese and Global South community activists around the world to support emergency humanitarian relief caused by endless U.S.-West wars, U.S.-West wars around the world, and economic exploitation against the Global South and the inner-city people of color, from communities caused by Western, affected by Western neoliberal capitalism, and are aimed at building international activist solidarity from China to the US and to the rest of the world. And then I think we'll just go into, we have a little brief PowerPoint slide just to give some to give a little bit of background on the significance of Arbaeen. So Arbaeen is, it's commemorated mourning period. It marks 40 days after Ashura, which is the day Imam Hussein was martyred. Imam Hussein is the is considered the third Shia Imam in Shia Islam. And he is the grandson of the Prophet. So Arbaeen is the 40 days of the mourning period. 40 days is kind of like a significant number within Islamic history. It marks, you know, it was said that Fatima, peace be upon her, the daughter of the Prophet, peace be upon him, mourned for 40 days after her father's death. It's kind of a standard Islamic mourning period. And the number 40 kind of has like a significance in Islam, but it was 40 days after Imam Hussein was murdered. He was the grandson of the Prophet, and he fought for justice against the corrupt ruler Yazid, who was violating the basic rights of the people and taking Islam down the wrong path. So Yazid was kind of born out of like a specific like tribe at the time that held a lot of power in Arabia. And even after the Prophet's time and his death, he rose to power after his father, and was a tyrant and was known for persecuting the Imam's family, the family of the Prophet, also known as Ahl al-Bayt in Islam. And what basically happened was that Yazid had demanded that Hussein would acknowledge his rule, and Hussein denied Yazid, refusing to sacrifice his principles. If we want to go to the next slide, you kind of see that, yeah. Hussein prepared to face Yazid at Karbala, which is in Iraq, modern-day Iraq today. And he was originally invited to lead an uprising by the people of Kufa. However, when the time came, the people went back on their promise and left Hussein and his supporters alone against Yazid's forces. So it was narrated and said and known that Hussein knew that he would come upon the people of Kufa and they would not support him in his uprising, even though they had originally pledged. That was because there was lots of tactics and that was used by Yazid and his army against people of Kufa, and also in the ways that they ended up betraying Imam Hussein are extremely significant. But Imam Hussein was known for having already known this, but yet he kind of went on to that path regardless, because he knew that he had to make a stand against oppression and against tyranny. And that's kind of the legacy that he left today. If we can go to the next slide. Hussein was martyred at the Battle of Karbala. His family was taken as prisoners by Yazid, but Hussein's message lived on. His sister Zainab and his son Ali, alayhim salam, continued to share his memory, message, and steadfast refusal to abandon his principles, growing a movement worldwide. So the principles that Imam Hussein kind of laid out in the Battle of Karbala was a huge legacy that was left behind, and is something that Shia Muslims, all Muslims, but particularly held within the tradition of Shia Islam, particularly honor and uphold. And so the ideals of martyrdom and sacrifice and upholding justice are extremely central to Shia Islam. And in the next slide, it says, now 1400 years later, Arbaeen is still observed and Hussein's message shared. In our day, as many Muslim and Arab countries show similar cowardice in their refusal to support the Palestinian people, we are reminded of the importance of Arbaeen and why the events of Karbala are more relevant today than ever. So that is kind of like a brief overview on the history of Arbaeen, on the significance of Arbaeen and the march that is now commemorated. It especially gained popularity after Saddam Hussein's end, because it was something that was like persecuted and attacked during that time. And so it rose in great significance in the 2000s, and now over 20 million people visit Arbaeen and go on the journey. So now I just want to go ahead and give a warm welcome and to introduce Mr. Shu and Mr. Lee Siu Hin, and welcome them here to share their experience in Karbala. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning from Shanghai, China. I'm right now in China for working on the China-US Solidarity project. And I just back from Iraq 2 weeks ago, and a great honor that Midnight Books had inviting me to coming to talk. I cannot call myself as an expert, but I want to give some my experience. I went to Karbala and also the conference in Iraq early August. This is my second time to visit Iraq. Last time was July 2003 when U.S. invade. I'm sorry, my cat is passing by. When U.S. invade Iraq, and then I was a Pacifica Radio KPFK reporter. I know the cat is so excited, and oh, come on. Okay, KPFK Los Angeles, and I was being report journalist, unpaid staff for over a decade for the newsrooms, and besides the LA local news, I have been also want to prove myself to represent voice of voiceless people of color and Chinese voices. Pay my own way. Have been travel around the world to meet with activists and did many journalism work, include Iraq, include Africa and Mexico. So on July 2003, I was representing Pacifica Radio, KPFK Los Angeles, to fact-finding journalism work on Iraq right after the U.S. invaded Iraq on Baghdad and Najaf and some other places. So this is my second time after nearly over 20 years to revisit Iraq. Of course, it's been a long time, but Iraq still completely deteriorating, destroyed since the U.S. invading and never recover. So when I see the situation in Iraq is also heartbroken. but also when I seeing the people, the spirit, Iraqi people are rising up, is also I feel very proud of. So this conference is organized by the clergy, the religious leaders, and religious scholars. Primary is and Shihai and from Karbala, and this has been the fourth conference called called for Aqsa. I'm sorry, if pronounced not very correctly, but and to want to mobilize people, especially Shia and the Muslim around the world, to support the Palestinian cause. It's a totally a peaceful conference, and it's a civic conference. Although mostly it's religious leaders, but majority has been a non-religious activists from the people they invite from around the world, or Muslim from different different countries, from Africa to Asia to Europe. And also many women was invited and coming to attend the conference to want to discuss how to form a coalition or maybe a network who can support the Palestinian cause. And it's just as you said that Nigeria have been saying why they choose this period, because the significance of the date and the moment that millions of the Muslims, especially Shia Muslims from around the world, march to Kaaba, to the Imam Hussein Mosque, for celebrations, observations. Some of them some of them maybe as far as I know from Asia has been marching, but the most people are basically first fly or bus to Najaf, roughly 80 kilometers south from the Kaaba, start from that march. So the route from the Najaf to Kaaba, that 80 kilometers, are basically packed with people, along the road, day and night, packed with the people, thousands of people. Both sides, they have on the both sides of the roads, they have a supporting station from different volunteers organization providing free food and free drinks and free resting place, and then so people will keep walking and eating and drinking and finish the 4-day journey, approximately 4 days journey to Kaaba. And feel like this is like a marathon. It's just like people and then walking when they're tired, and they're going to one of the free tent to sit down and sleep a little bit, or maybe just keep eating, and people just passing the food and drink. And it's a very festival, and that's absolutely is a very beautiful sight that people never been seen. None of the Western media have been reporting about this. So to organize the international conference is one to not to tell the people, tell the Muslim around the world, not only celebrating the religious moment, not only commemorating the Hussein, his sacrifice. It's using march and sacrifice to support the Palestinian cause. Let's all peacefully march to the Palestine and support the people of Palestine. That was the message.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, that's amazing. I was actually going to ask, how did you think that, what were the ways in which you saw people like honoring Palestine and honoring the sacrifice of Palestinians, and what are kind of the similarities that you see, or that you see between modern day Palestine and what's going on there towards like what happened in Karbala, all those years ago, and how that still stayed strong in people's memory, and why then the people, the Muslims, Shia Muslims, people of Iraq, like how they have such an affinity and show such great solidarity with Palestine.
Yes, that's a great question, because I think because of the complexity in the Middle East, historical and currently, and there's no doubt. I mean, I don't want to be with details to say, but there's lots of different factional fighting and then distrust and even a fight between Shia and Sunni. That's a fact. And Iraqis. In Iraq, if people know simple geography, majorities are Shiite, and then 70%, I believe, and then 30% are Sunnis. And how to support the Palestine cause also have a different divisions and how they're going to be should be work, and but also because Iraq is still and far away from Palestine, and then because Iraq has been totally destroyed by the 2003 U.S. invasions. I remember on 2000, right before the U.S. first time invaded Iraq, the per capita GNP what Iraqi was around $10,000. It's among the most wealthy nation in the region, far more wealthier, richer than the Dubai, what now considered to be the most richest place in the Gulf region. And now the other way around. Now today's around $4,000 per capita, and much lower, even much lower than China. And in 2000s, China GDP per capita is probably less than 1,000, and Iraq is at 10,000. Iraqi is 10 times more richer than China. Now today's is per capita is China is at least 3 to 4 times richer than Iraq. So what that means is Iraq has been, although if they want to support, they don't have resources. They got to use a grassroots movement, and then also how to combine religions with the support the Palestinian cause, because a different faction, different ideology has been have a different way to talk to suppose how to do. There's no doubt that what happened in Palestine today, in Gaza today, is a byproduct of the different, some people saying they support, but they are not supporting, or somebody that want to support, but they don't have resources. And so that's the reason. And how we're talking about peaceful resistance, or how we can support the Palestine in different way, from not only from like direct action, the Western style, but also religious way in the Eastern way. So that's the reason to have a discussion, and then lots of discussion has been happening, and how to want to be more inclusive. I think the organizer has been really conscious, and then which is I was thought that very pleased that was they also include different faiths, and also they've been trying to include more women to be involved, and that was not happening since some other like conference in the region in the past, and then and so that is very very important. And on the other hand, the situation in Gaza is getting worse and worse and worse. There's a femicide and also hunger games played by the U.S. and Israel right this moment. How people can from the region using religion as a peaceful way for the resistance and support the Palestine cause seems like a very simple, but it's a very complex dialogue need to be worked out.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen many videos and of people of different faiths, being Christian, being Sunni, being Shia, being not of a certain denomination, in Arbaeen, and taking the time to feed the pilgrims there. So it seems that regardless of different sects and everything, there seems to be this like unity in serving people who are coming to visit Arbaeen, and coming to visit coming for Arbaeen, coming to visit Karbala, and honoring Imam Hussein, and that legacy and how it compares to what's going on today. And I guess I also was curious, what were kind of like the overall conclusions of the conference? What was the kind of atmosphere there? What do you feel like you gained from that experience, and what other people gained from that experience what was kind of like, I guess, like an overall like conclusion or summary of how the conference went?
Okay. Let's before we talk about conclusion, I can tell you share how I attended the conference, how I got invited, and if people and there's even the Palestinian solidarity movement, and it's not unified around the world. There's a different factions as U.S. based, UK based, European continental based, Turkish based, and Middle East, primarily either Egypt or Jordan based, Asian based. They're all not connected. People don't know each other's. When I mention certain names or certain organizations, like in Iraq, about the U.S. Palestinian Solidarity Movement, that no one ever heard of. Same thing. When I mention the Middle Eastern base and then Palestinian Solidarity Movement or NGOs, none of the U.S. organizations even ever heard of. That's the fact. And how to bridge different factions together is a very important. Although it seems like now talking about 2025, and then even the internet age, and people thought that people will know each other, but in reality, that's not the case. Same thing. They want to bring more grassroots American activists. They also want to bring Chinese activists that they just don't have any connections. We fortunately invited because we have been doing humanitarian works in Gaza, in Egypt, and Middle East, and Turkey, and people know our name. We have been attended several similar conference for the past year. The report you can see on PalestineWatch.net website, very detailed reports. So that's the people start knowing me or knowing each other. So they inviting people to attend the conference, and I was invited by an organization called Global Coalition, the Right to Return to Palestine. I don't know if you heard that before. Yeah, they're pretty big. They've been so they were one of the organizer for the conference, and along with the Iraqi religious organization and clergy. So they bring us to come in. And then I know there have been some American activists also attended the conference, but primarily different places are from Turkey to Malaysia to Thailand and South Africa, which is on the maybe European or US based Palestinian Solidarity Movement. Never even heard that of, never knew this exists. So I even didn't exist certain organizations. So that's the purpose. And then they want. So at the end, what is the conclusion that they want to do from the conference? And number one, to unify people, to meet people, so networking opportunities, and from around the world that know that certain groups in here and there, they're working on this, and then they want to, each organization can maybe a future that can bring together to for another forces or peaceful forces to support the Palestine cause. From the activism circle, from the teaching the community about the Palestine cause, to humanitarian aid. On the other hand, is I want the future maybe that can be to organize bring more people to go, or maybe go to the other countries arranging. They want us, if they want, we can organize folks to go to China. Some other maybe want to organize activists if they can go to India to talk about the conference, to organize a similar conference, etc. So those are the aim, the goal. Maybe not that it's a gigantic, so we're talking about like a big goal, but something that very practical and something that can be done is can be unify people. Although it seems like what you're talking about, been so many protests, so many things, but they're fracturized. People, there's a protest and to support Palestine in Europe, in Ireland, in Italy, and or Greece every day, but we never heard that before. The same thing that like people saying that why those Chinese are supporting the Palestine cause, that do have, but never talk on the Western media. Seems like on the U.S. news, like although it's great, but that seems like a protest only happen every day in New York City. It's not true.
Yeah. And I think also, no, seems like a great opportunity for people all over the world to come meet together and also go over share different strategies that may be further bettering their movements and advancing different tactics and ways to advance the struggle. Um, I think people, like you said, are definitely fractured, and it's not just also about protests because there's very much a limit to what protests can do. But if there's other ways that we can share ideas and things that have worked with one another, then that's a lot more beneficial. So for your organization, Panda Aid, do you want to talk a little bit about the work that you guys do and also what have you sort of done or any work that you might have done towards for Palestine or Palestinian relief or any type of organizing around that?
Great. Yes, so that's you raised a very important point. Panda A was created and before Panda A, we have been doing humanitarian work, activism work for many years, from Mexico to Iraq to Palestine, everywhere. But the core organization of Panda A was exclusively being designed to create it since the October 7th. And the reason was that because unlike other solidarity work, like one you have been happening in like last month in the Midnight Books to support the Cuba, Palestine, especially Gaza, are really different dynamics. Like on other aid movement, you can simply, although you still legal risk because of sanctions, U.S. sanction that going to cause you trouble or blocking the aid, but you still can buy items, get donation, do a community form, and then bring the aid items to go to Cuba. But it's not the case in Gaza. Gaza is having deliberately sealed off and military blockade by the Israel, and also with the support of U.S. In U.S., what you do, you can get trouble. I also worry about I will maybe going to get trouble in the future one of these days. So none of the humanitarian organization can actually now sending items to Gaza, and IOF, the Israeli occupied force, has been murdering the aid workers, the journalists, and the medical workers. Yesterday, there has been another few were killed in the hospital in Gaza. So it's really a threat. That's the reason when we start doing like activist work, like we want to deliver aid 2 years ago after the October 7th, many activists, include U.S. activists, European activists, with Egyptian activists, we want to organize emergency medical aid or food delivery from Egypt, crossing the Sinai Peninsula to going to Rafah crossing. It's not even a direct action. It's just a real purist humanitarian. We all got arrested in Egypt, and the one that we cannot do it. And I was lucky I was not arrested, and then because of time difference. And after talk with the different people, and then also my experience as a war correspondent for Pacific Radio, and I know many humanitarian agency people for over 30 years, I thought that by just doing almost like a gun-ho activist way, direct action way to support the cause won't work in the reality on the Middle East, and for good or bad reasons. That's the reason I immediately thought that we should not just call ourselves like a XYZ activists to support Gaza. That won't work. So I go into the completely legit way to create our own NGOs, humanitarian aid organizations, immediately register under UN, and then become a purely non-governmental, non-political, non-partisan humanitarian aid organization called Panda A to deliver aid to Gaza. That was the whole the creation of the called Gaza, the Panda 8. And yes, we do send humanitarian aid, and then we have been working with Palestinian doctors to send medical items, like 4 tons of items, 300 boxes, and we've been organizing for years. And we're ready to ship it on last year. But unfortunately, all this item is brought outside the border of Gaza because of Israeli blockade. And just like not all other organizations, we have tons of humanitarian aid ready to ship in. We got registered under the UN World Health Organization and got authorized as soon as we can get allowed to drive the items in. We can, but the Israel, with the support of the US, has been blocking every single items except the Israeli back and the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. They're organizing a phony humanitarian operation on south of the Gaza with they're hiring all these mercenary thugs to attack the Gazans when they desperately seeking for food. So that is how the complication we're facing. So we are also right now is a fundraiser. We have been that's at least and also in China, and we're asking community members to donation, and then we're supporting a few organizations in Gaza to organize their soup kitchen inside food kitchen inside Gaza, and then we are sending fund. As quickly as this week, we have been fundraising some small amount of money. That we are not the only one we're doing this. There's dozens other community Chinese organizations doing this, sending funds to humanitarian organizations inside Gaza to support their food kitchen project right now. So we're another one we are also doing right now. So that's how we're doing. It's very difficult. It's not that easy. It's not like okay, I got a fundraising like on today, and then we can buy items and then ship it in, and then people can get it. It's not that simple. It's a very complex process. It's a test of the will.
Right.
Especially we are volunteers, and then it's extremely difficult.
Right. Yeah. It seems extremely very difficult for what people are going through, and yeah, it seems like there's been a lot of difficulty with getting aid to people in Gaza. It's really amazing what you guys are trying to do to be able to try and get needed supplies, medical supplies, food for people, to try and alleviate everything for them, to alleviate the conditions under which the occupying forces have put people under. And I guess I also want to ask sort of what is the significance, because I did go over the significance of Arbaeen and Karbala, but what do you think is the significance of having held this conference in an area like this and during the time of Arbaeen? And do you feel what is the greater message that people were able to extract from that, from Arbaeen and from the area, and kind of put it into the work that they want to put out for Palestine, and sort of how does the message of Arbaeen and the area that they're in, what significance does it hold for the work that they're doing today for Palestine?
Yes. I think religions and around the world sometimes could be very conservative, or maybe they are very cautious of everything. The significance of the link using this at moment Arbaeen and Karbala to organize a Palestinian conference is want to linking the sacrifice of Hussein to the people sacrificing the freedoms in Palestine, especially in Gaza, and also support, because the story you told before that Hussein was a murderer in Karbala. On the way he's going to escape from the corrupted king. Can I say that way? And then going to the new beginning. So same thing. What is Gaza is happening right now is not only humanitarian crisis, but also we as a Muslims, or maybe a conscious human being, we should leaving the comfort zone and then going to march to peacefully. In this case, peace to support to Jerusalem to Gaza to support the people of the Palestine. That is the message. Although it seems like a very simple message, but to how to effectively linking with the religion, effectively using the moment of the very holy moment to linking everything, it still need to be lots to work with, especially on the complex situation in the Middle East, which is different factions could have a different their own self-interest, and that's how the why when that's when have and the people said support the Palestine, but on the same time, many Middle Eastern countries have been secretly cutting a deal with U.S., even with Israel. There's portrayal of the people of Palestine that's happening every day. So it's not that easy when everyone can say that is in the name of religion. So that's the reason how we work to how to simply to educate the masses that there's a religious duty to support the people of Palestine. That is a need to be keep saying again and again and again. That's the most significant things. And on the march from the Najaf to Karbala, it's also mentioned that it's not only Iraqis are marching. I see many people from Iran is also marching because of Shia, and then so on during the conference, we also went to several tents on the route that's also organized by Iranian students from the university, which their teacher has been recently murdered by the Israeli attack on 2 months ago. So the exhibition organized by Iranian students, so we went and then visit and check it out, and then so those kind of things. And then just this is not just on the date is not only for the Iraqi Shiites, but also people Shiite from Iran and then other countries. I know some Chinese also march also including the march, but I never saw them because millions of people. So it's completely packed and crowded, and then people all the times. And so, but I see many peoples. And this is a great moment to educate or find a message that people can subscribe to. That's I think that's the most significant. Besides, not also again, I don't know if you know that. Or people thought that this is a male event, but it's not true. I see many women have been marching. I see probably in certain times more women than men because they can walk. That's great. They can walk 4 days. And then although I said I'm pretty strong, I'm marathon runner, I just still doubt that. Can I walk 4 days in such 100 degrees weather? I just even when I'm standing there, it's sweating all the time. So I said I cannot do it. But they can do it. So that means that there's a will. So using this moment to linking all this is the most logical, makes sense way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like you said, I think the highlighting the importance of how it's not just something that's within one tradition or one religion, because like you said, there are other people from this, like a lot of the majority countries, like Arab countries, who are have established deep, strong relations with Israel to the detriment of the Palestinians. You could say that what's happening in Palestine today wouldn't be happening if a lot of the Gulf and Arab states weren't aligned politically and economically with Israel. And that significance is very important as well, because that that's something that's in the tradition of Muharram and Imam Hussein. That's something that did happen. And so that's also something super important to highlight. And I also know that there is going to be a conference this weekend for Labor Day in Detroit, I believe, in the United States here, basically like the People's Annual Palestinian Conference. And also, I'm sure there's many other conferences that have been happening. I guess what would be like a message towards organizers here trying to organize with with Palestinian solidarity organizers in the United States? Like, what are some of the lessons, like you said, you've learned from your conference, and what are some of, like, if there were any discussions, around the United States and American organizers in general, in their role in the Palestinian solidarity movement, what would that message be towards them?
That's a great question. So I wish I can join the conference. I come back to US, but that weekend, by chance, is also very important for China. September 3rd will be the celebration of the end of the World War II to beat the fascist Japanese 80th anniversary. And also there will be a U.S. activist delegations already coming these days, and then we'll be accommodate them to visit cities, and also a fact-finding mission to Xinjiang. So it's time conflict right on this time. If not, then I'll fly back to LA and then go to attend the conference. But that's how the solidarity works. People meet each other, discuss for discussions, and also to build a multi-ethnic, a multi-country, multi-faith, multi-identity solidarity. That is a very important. And I would just message to say that to a conference is outreach to the people and the organization activists in the Middle East, and at least in Europe and some part of Europe, and then work together, because the movement is fracturized and people don't know each other. People seems like we are talking about big building bigger, but we're just talking to each other, and we not only talking to each other, but different people have different values. Different people has different focus, or maybe concerns want to be included. And for us, definitely have a very specific reason, political message that our voices from not only from China but global South cannot be not included, and that it will be really changing the certain tones of the movement. There's no doubt that on because ignorance, or maybe a political division, divide and conquer. That's been during attending many conferences of humanitarian works, people have been keep asking, is China support Palestine? What you're talking about? China has been supporting Palestine since 1960s, and the overwhelming majority, 99% of Chinese public support Palestine cause, and that's a fact. And then another thing is, I see that ill-fated and then evil-minded and forces behind on the Palestinian movement that not only pushing to certain direction, but also want to linking the to suppress this movement in Xinjiang to the free Palestine. So there's a message saying that like a free Palestine should be also free Xinjiang. That is that want to break our country. That is we can be unacceptable. Although that's not become a mainstream, but we have been very cautious about people be asking about this. And then I also has been want to raise these issues, and because certain when it's free Palestine, they issue something. And then some of the Western values could be not necessary will be a work on the in the Middle East, for example. Karbala conference, a very inclusive woman, but because Iraq is a Muslim country, so there's still certain customs you got to remember. I mean, as such, for example, like a scar, hijab, and also when we going to the mosque, men and women will be separated. Mm-hmm. And the women's only, men's only, and then also certain in Middle East that also, I mean, men not necessarily shouldn't be shaking hand with women. I mean, that's all these kind of things that could be, I mean, and certain like when I meet with certain Western oriented activists, we will be saying that I cannot do that. I mean, I don't want to have hijab. Why I need to go into the women's only entrance, and then when we cannot sit and talk, sit and have a conference together with the men, that kind of things. That is. It's a good for discussion, could be a suggestion, but it's not like putting this is an issue to creating divisions. That is not supposed. And it can be a room for discussion. I mean, certainly in some other more like a Western-oriented Palestinian conference, and which men women can stay together. Hijab is not a requirement, but there's different area, different way that have a different ideas. We don't should be a judgment call that but we can have a room for discussion. I saw one of the during the conference, and then there's a delegate from Thailand, a woman, and we certainly believe she's not a Muslim, because when she flying into Iraq, she never had hijab. But as soon as she landed to Iraq, she fully hijab and covered to respect the customs. And I think that's the things that we should, respect and understanding, that we can have a room to talk about how we can maybe find a common ground to work together. So that is, I think, very important, because even that small kind of things can divide people very, very, very easy.
Absolutely, yeah. I think especially people in the West can definitely learn to understand that it's very much a matter of perspective, and certain, there are values in everything. There's good and bad in everything. So definitely, I very much appreciate your perspective on that and everything that you have to share. I think we can close it a little bit early, unless there's any questions that people want to drop in the chat. If you have any questions for Mr. Soo-Hin, or for Midnight, or for the about anything, please feel free to drop any questions that you may have. But I just want to say thank you for your perspective on everything, and thank you for sharing all of this. It seemed like, especially this year with Arbaeen, there's the most amount of pilgrims that they've had, I think, ever. And given everything that's been happening this year, and also like just the underreporting of it in Western media is extremely significant, I think, in its own way, because it's the largest pilgrimage in the world. And it's almost not seen as culturally and historically significant and current. Even in the way that, like, yes, you see people go to Hajj, and that's seen as like, that is the pilgrimage that is performed as a Muslim, that is like a requirement. But given that there is like some, commentary to be made on the fact that a lot of that, money does go towards a government that is supporting the Palestinian genocide. And I think there are like, like remarks or things to be said about the differences in the pilgrimages today, but also the significance of Arbaeen is extremely important in today's message, for understanding Palestine, for understanding the tragedy of Palestine, but also in the ways that people mourn, and how the tradition of mourning, being kept alive, keeps the memory of the sacrifice of these people alive. And also how that leads to legacies of people standing up for resistance, and eventually to victory. So if people around the world can kind of embody those values and those beliefs, then Palestine will be free, and we can play our role and our part in that, and supporting that, and supporting our own liberation. So thank you again so much for everything. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to forgot to mention one very important thing. I want to I really want not only the organizers. I personally want to invite more, not only Chinese activists, but also activists from U.S., youth, people of color, Palestinian activists, to join in this kind of a conference, this kind of meetings, and also to support our Panda work, because I think that if a future, the room for discussion, how can bring youth from people of color youth, Palestinian youth, to come in to attend this kind of conference, because I don't have to come all the time. So I'm almost like feel like every time. So only me is not a good idea, but also on the same time, and then the youth, and then can be not only experience, but also can bring the movement to understand, and then bring the message back to the community that world is big, and people, how we can work together, and then they also can listen to your opinion, how different movement work, and then because every time when after the conference, they're not only asking me but asking different delegates from around the world, how can we meet the local activists? Okay, so that's always happening, and also Panda will also want to bring people to go to in Egypt or maybe in Middle East for to support the Palestinian work, and then if future people want to do it, and then that would be great, and then we can also introduce you to the grassroots Palestinian NGOs and organizations that maybe you never met before that can work together. Again, this is not my only context on lower decks that cannot be shared. I really want to people to participate and work together humbly, inviting people to work together. So that is hopefully can be happen, or maybe you can send this message to the Palestinian conference next week that people can work, see if the future will be interested to work together on this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some people going that we know of, so we can definitely pass along your information, your message, and connect with people. Absolutely, and even people here in the comments and stuff. You can also DM Midnight. We can connect you with Panda Aid, and we can see what kind of resources we can provide everyone and connections that can be made to further our network and everything. So thank you again for that message. Thank you again for joining us, for participating. It's an honor talking to you and hearing your experience and everything. And thank you to everyone for coming in. And please stay tuned on Midnight and social media, Midnight Books LA. And we will hopefully in the future have more conferences and meetings like this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.